And within the same tomb as Jesus, son of Joseph, a second name was discovered.
First of all, it's an ossuary found in Jerusalem.
The ossuary is now housed in the basement of the Israel Museum.
As you can see, the script is very simple. The Hebrew letters that create this name are Mem. Mem is for M. Reish, like R. Yud can be I or Y. And Hey in Hebrew, it's like H in Latin English. That makes Maria.
Maria.
And it's one of the rare examples of that name on ossuary in Israel.
Maria, Mary, found in the same family tomb as Jesus, son of Joseph. Could this be the Virgin Mary's ossuary? Throughout history, from the first Greek writings of Mark, the earliest gospel, the Virgin Mary's name has come down to us in only one form, Maria. It is a Latinized version of the Hebrew, Miriam. The New Testament records her name as Maria. Written in Hebrew, the name Maria is very rare, but it's exactly what was found on the ossuary in the Talpiot tomb. If in 1980, archaeologists had considered, even for a moment, that they had discovered the ossuary of the Virgin Mary, what other family members might they have expected to find next to her?
Look, Matthew. Look here. M-T-Yud-Hey, so Mattia.
Matthew. The name, at first, doesn't seem to fit with the Jesus family. The New Testament is made up of the writings of 4 Gospels, attributed to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, the evangelist, was a disciple of Jesus.
I don't think it's odd that we would have a Matthew in this tomb at all. In fact, it's sort of one more congruence and fitting together.
There isn't a single name that doesn't fit the gospel story. Each name in the same tomb connects. Every single one of these names is gospel related. There isn't like any name like Daniel or something else. It just doesn't fit.
On 3 ossuaries, 4 names had been uncovered: Joseph, Jesus, Mary, and Matthew. And then on an ossuary found deep within the tomb, another name was discovered.
This inscription says Yosa, with a hey in the end. It's a diminutive of Yosef. There is no question about it. As an ossuary inscription, this would probably be quite unusual.
If I'm publishing in English, I say, oh, okay, there's a Joseph. Well, there's not just a Joseph. It's Yosei. Now, in Hebrew, Yossi in Israel today is quite common. Yossi, Joseph, like Joey. But Yosei you will never hear. And you didn't hear it in the ancient world either. The Yod, the E becomes a Yosei. Guess where we know that name? In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus has a brother. People don't all know that Jesus had brothers. Most scholars, the Roman Catholic Church says they were cousins, and other people they were stepbrothers. But most of the historians and the biblical scholars have pretty well now admitted Jesus had brothers. They're named in the Gospels, the 4 brothers: James, Joseph, Jude, and Simon. But the Joseph in Mark, only in Mark, our earliest Gospel, is not Joseph. It's Yosei.
Yosei, or Josie in the English, was the brother of Jesus. But the Gospels don't tell us much more than that. He disappears after 3 brief citations. What happened to Yosei is a mystery. But if the ossuaries from the Talpiot tomb belong to the Jesus family, then Yosei has finally been found. Of all the ossuary inscriptions ever discovered, there is only one with this unique spelling of the nickname Yosei. In 1980, archaeologists were cataloging ossuary names in lists of hundreds. And from this tomb, they now had Jose, a rare nickname given to the brother of Jesus; Maria, a rare Latinized version of Mary used in the Gospels to refer to Jesus' mother; Mattia, a version of Matthew; and Jesus, son of Joseph. All found together in a family tomb, all cleaned and cataloged. While the statistical probabilities have been argued, they have never been examined by statistical experts. Until now. André Feuerwerker is a professor of mathematics and statistics. From ossuaries and other sources, he's gathered every name known from the time of Jesus. By noting how often each name occurs, he can statistically evaluate the names discovered in Tel Piot.
One of the things that's fairly interesting about this particular tomb site is that from a lay point of view, if one looks at the specific names that occur in the cluster, and if one focuses just on the names individually, one can very well come away with the impression that there is nothing the least bit unusual about this particular cluster. But the correct way to analyze this is to look at all of the names in unison.
According to statistics, if we were on a crowded street in ancient Jerusalem and called out the name Jesus, 4% of the men would most probably answer. If we were to call out the name Mary, 25% of the women would probably respond. They were both common names. But what Feuerwerker explains is that if we were to call out for a Jesus with a father called Joseph, a mother named Mary, and a brother called Jose, the odds that such an individual would respond are quite low.
From a statistical point of view, we don't actually look at the incidences of the individual names where we say that each one of them is a very common name. We look at the way in which the factors combine with each other. So, sure, a father by the name of Joseph is not a rare name. A son by the name of Yeshua is not a rare name. But when you combine those two together, it's rarer. So it really is a possibility that this particular tomb site is in fact the one of the New Testament family. It is a possibility that I think needs to be taken seriously.
Taking the possibility seriously. Poring over architectural plans decades old and cross-referencing the IAA archaeology reports, our team believes they've discovered the underground location of the Tel Piot tomb. The Tel Piot site is perfectly situated halfway between ancient Jerusalem and Bethlehem, the two cities most important to Jesus and his family. It would have been an ideal location for his family tomb, considering that surviving members would have traveled from both cities to visit the burial site.
If you think about it, it's perfect. It's right between Jerusalem over there, where Itai is, and Bethlehem is over there. This is where, if I was a member of the Jesus family, this is where I would want to be buried, okay? There's some potential.
Crude IAA sketches suggest that both tombs may have had access pipes installed before building continued above them. It's common for pipes like these to be added at the request of rabbis in response to the Orthodox belief that spirits need a clear passage from a tomb. In December of 1990, construction workers uncovered an ancient burial cave from the 1st century. Inside, there were 12 ossuaries. 2 of them bore the name Caiaphas. This one, the most ornate ossuary, has the inscription, Joseph, son of Caiaphas, carved into it twice. Joseph, son of Caiaphas, was the high priest of the temple, who, according to the Gospels, prosecuted Jesus. From his point of view, Jesus was a dangerous false Messiah who was leading the Jewish masses into a confrontation with Israel's rulers in Rome.